Hello, hello.
It's working.
We can hear you.
Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
It's great when it works.
Yeah, that's us. Okay. Mute and then.
Hi, good morning. This is Alexis with Supervisor Perez's office. Are you able to hear me okay?
Yes.
Perfect, thank you.
Can we please begin the housekeeping comments?
Thank you for participating in today's meeting. If attending in person, please do not connect to Zoom or teleconference while in the room, and please silence all devices. If translation is provided, click on the globe at the bottom of your screen to select either English or Spanish. Public comment will be taken after each item. If you're in the auditorium and wish to comment, please use the iPads located in the lobby or complete a blue speaker card as available. If you need assistance, please find a South Coast AQMD employee. Speakers may be limited to a total of 3 minutes or less for all agenda items. Times may be shortened to ensure all speakers can be heard. A countdown timer will be displayed on the screen for each public comment. More time will be allotted for Spanish translation that is not simultaneous. For questions or issues on making a public comment, please call the public advisor at 909-396-3247. That's 909-396-3247. Please adhere to the speaker time limit and treat others with courtesy, civility, and respect. Failure to do so can result in your mic being muted or you being removed from the meeting. Be aware that this meeting is being recorded. By participating, you authorize recording of audio and visual content presented during the live event and consent to subsequent use of the recording in the public domain by South Coast AQMD.
Thank you. Well, good morning, everyone, and welcome to the hybrid legislative committee meeting of Friday, December 13th, 2024. It's now 9:03. This is our second meeting of the day. I'll call this meeting officially to order and ask Maria Corlejo to please take the roll.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning.
Mayor Lock Dawson.
Here.
We can hear you great, Mayor.
Great, finally. Thank you. Excuse me just a moment. I want to make sure. I will need to leave at 9:30. I've been called to jury duty, so I will be here for the first half hour, but we'll need to leave. Thanks.
You have to go. Don't be in contempt of court. We don't want to lose you. Thanks. Come on, Maria.
Supervisor Hagman. Supervisor Perez. Absent. Councilmember Rahman.
Here.
Thank you. Councilmember Caccioti.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you, Maria. Let's move to item number 1 on our agenda. It's an issue RFP for legislative representation in Sacramento. We have our presenter, Lisa Tanaka O'Malley, Deputy Executive Officer, Legislative, Public Affairs and Media. Lisa?
Good morning, Chair, members of the committee. This action is to request the approval to release a RFP to solicit proposals for legislative representation and strategic political consulting in Sacramento. The cost is not to exceed $180,000 for the initial one-year period with an additional two additional one-year extensions upon board approval. This is necessary to advance the board's policies and priorities, especially given the state's tight budget and some of the critical legislative items we're working on, including our two sponsor bills, one which relates to CARB compensation for our board members representing air districts, and cleanup amendments to AB 2851, the Bonta bill related to metal shredding facilities. We're also working on funding for AB 617, including working to develop new champions for that program. Amendments to AB 98 related to warehouses, which would require South Coast AQMD to conduct air monitoring and a study and other issues, and also the reauthorization of cap and trade. With that, staff recommend approval to release the RFP for state legislative representation, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Lisa. Committee members, any questions? Supervisor Hagman.
I do. Don't we already have 3 on board?
We have two consultants firms on board. They have 2 additional years on their contract upon board approval, and one on a shorter term contract, which will expire at the beginning of the next fiscal year.
Next fiscal year. So this is to replace that one. We're not adding 4.
That's correct.
I mean-
You're correct. So this new contract won't begin until the beginning of the next fiscal year, July 1, 2025.
And I know we deal a lot with policy, more so than operations. But in the county, for example, we're probably budget-wise 25 times bigger with more. And I deal with one on each, federal and state. So I always wondered why we have multiple on this side. But yeah, as long as we're not moving to 4, I'm good. 3 seems like overkill, but at least this maintains what we got. Thank you.
Thank you, Kurt. Mayor, any comments? Anyone else? Any questions for staff? Council member?
No, I think that. Thanks for that.
Okay.
You covered my question. Thank you.
I'm having difficulty, whoever spoke, having difficulty hearing you? So, okay, you're okay. Is there any public comment on this item? None in the auditorium, any online? Moved by Supervisor Hagman. Is there a second?
Second,
Second by Mayor
Patricia Lock-Dawson.
Patricia Lock-Dawson.
I'm
roll call. Oh, Manny's on. Okay, go ahead.
No, I just said I'm on. I'm good.
Thank you, Manny.
Thank you. Mayor Lock-Dawson,
Aye.
Supervisor Hagman, Supervisor Perez,
Aye.
Councilmember Rahman,
Yes.
Councilmember Caccioti.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Thank you, Maria. Let's move on to item number 2, recommended position on state bills. We've got one, and I see Philip, I'm not sure if I see him. Is it Philip Crabb III, Senior Public Affairs Manager, LPM? Philip, go ahead, please.
Philip is supposed to be online.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yes, Philip, go ahead, please. Thanks.
Great, thank you. 1 second. Trying to turn my video on. Okay. I've attempted to turn my video on, so hopefully you can see me. But SB, let's see here. Well, good morning, Mr. Chair and committee members. SB 34 would require CARB to establish an intermodal goods movement stakeholder group consisting of, among others, representatives from 12 California ports. I'm sorry, 1 second. I'm trying to apologize. I've turned my video on and I see that I'm not. Okay, sorry. I'll continue though. So SB 34 would require CARB to establish an intermodal goods movement stakeholder group consisting of, among others, representatives from 12 California ports, multiple labor representatives, and the California Department of Transportation. It would require the stakeholder group to develop a plan that specifies short-term thresholds of yellow, orange, and red for port emissions, and actions to be taken to reduce port emissions when the thresholds are reached. The stakeholder group shall submit a report to the legislature and governor with its findings, recommendations, and plan by January 31st, 2027. The plan cannot be implemented before July 1, 2027. Some concerns with the bill include the role of the proposed stakeholder group and its problematic conflict with existing state and local authority. This could set a dangerous precedent of usurping local government authority. Also, the potential delay of emission reductions by preventing stakeholder group plan actions to be implemented no earlier than July 1st, 2027. Thus, staff recommends an initial work with author position on this bill to discuss these issues. South Coast AQMD staff met with Senator Richardson's chief of staff this week and had a good discussion on mobile source emission contributions to the region's non-attainment issues and our efforts related to the ports. The chief of staff advised that SB 34 is a spot bill and appreciated meeting with South Coast AQMD. Further, there is agreement to meet with Senator Richardson in the new year to further discuss SB 34. That's my presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Philip. Committee members, questions?
I have a question. If you
Go
can
ahead,
hear
please,
me.
council member.
I just wanted to know what our goal was in working with the author of the bill. Like what's the outcome that we're trying to get to with this?
Sure.
Wayne, did you want to answer that? Wayne, self-control, remember.
Thank you, Chair.
I realize this is a tough question.
Well, it's really not. It's just how do I answer it publicly? I think we took the position of work with authors so that we could have the chance to explain what the existing authorities, what the existing processes are, and hope that the author will understand, at least from our perspective and maybe some of the community members' perspective, what this bill does and what a dangerous precedent it sets with regards to our efforts with regards to overseeing and regulating emission sources.
Yeah, I mean, I guess in that case, my question is, why are we not just taking an opposed position?
Because I'd like to keep the peace for a little bit at least. And work with the author to maybe have the author withdraw or not to move forward. It all depends.
Okay, thank you.
Supervisor Perez.
Well, on that front, then if that's the case, do we have language that we're gonna submit to try to alter this? Because I mean, in other words, keeping the peace. If we're gonna still be in opposition, no matter what they come up with, unless they come up with something we like, it's still gonna be a no. So I'm just wondering, do we have anything in planned here?
We don't have specific language presently, but we do have a commitment to meet with both the senator and the staff, and then we'll report back to the committee with regards to what we think may happen and any change in our recommendation.
All right, well, unless we provide something, right? I mean, it's like, okay, you have a meeting and to discuss what? I mean, it's like, okay, we have concerns. All right, this is what we want to do. They're going to say this is what we want to do. You're going to say, okay, well, what about this? I mean, in other words, you're going to start proposing something, I guess.
Yeah, my understanding on this is that this is a reserve bill in case the district proceeds with the cap on emissions port on emissions associated with the port. I've publicly said we're not doing that.
Yes.
So I don't believe that the author is fully aware of all of our actions, what we're doing, and I hope that we can work with the author to get them to understand and see where this bill goes. If the bill makes traction, we would come back and have a change in position.
All right, Wayne, I mean, I trust you and all, but at the end of the day, you're gonna have a meeting. And if they don't, if we're not in agreement with them, which it seems that way, I just don't, like, how is she gonna change language, or how is this language gonna change for us to jump on it? I just don't see it.
You know, Manny, staff is, I bet there was some discussion among staff, what position to take on this, oppose, work with author. Do you want to suggest oppose? And strategically, is that, what are your thoughts, Manny?
Well, I think it was mentioned earlier about why not just oppose it straight up. I mean, unless we have something that we're gonna offer, I don't see why we even entertaining this.
Supervisor Hagman, did you have any, I've got two legislators here from the,
No, I mean, it's spot bill. It's gonna hold it open. I think we could change our position real quick, but to have your communications at least ongoing until the bill's completely in print. You don't need to go start a war about having seen it in print yet, but we can start having conversations with our allies and others to prepare for it just in case.
Supervisor Perez, is that okay?
Yeah, I don't mind. I just know where this is gonna, I just already know where this is gonna end up. It's all good. Been there, done that.
But I think I think Supervisor Hagman and staff keeping the peace at this point is probably important, if we can.
Yeah, I get it. It's true.
Mayor Lock Dawson, any comments? Councilmember Rahman, are you all right on this?
I was just gonna say, man, as Supervisor Perez, I had the same exact questions, all of the above, so I appreciate you articulating them, but I'm good with with the motion, with the recommendation, and I would move approval on that one when appropriate. Thanks.
Thanks, Mayor. Just when in your discussions, I'm just curious, when I looked at the stakeholder groups on that group, that we were omitted and the environmental justice groups were omitted. Just maybe bring that up in the meetings if it ever moves any more forward.
Oh, we will.
Thank you. So is there any public comment on this item? In the auditorium? No? Online?
Mr. Etter had his hand raised, but it just went down. I don't know if there was a technical issue. It's back up.
Harvey, we're going to give you 3 minutes to testify in this matter. And this is item number 2 on the agenda, recommended position on State Bill SB 34. So if you can limit your comments to that item. Go ahead, Harvey.
Hello, am I being heard?
Yes, Harvey. Go ahead, please.
I'm Harvey Etter. I'm speaking for myself and for Public Solar Power Coalition and like-minded individuals and entities. Okay, for the record, I shouldn't be getting time for this. When you press *9, it puts you in the queue to talk. If you press it a second time, it takes you out. That's what just happened, and we just said I was taken out, and I did that. I have to press it again, *9, to get back in. There is no instructions on this. It tells about *6, but this has been going on, and we brought this up. It's got to be remedied. It is also part of being outrageous on this. Okay, I'd like to know what the real is on this. I don't know if we will find it, but there's some kind of power play. All the ports, and we're talking about stopping, putting limits on them. I'd like to know, the people would like to know what the real issues are before this thing explodes in the newspapers and stuff, okay? That, you know, we should be able to ask questions as well as board members, all right? Thank you, bye.
Thank you, Harvey. So there's a motion on this item, and was there a second? Moved by Supervisor Hagman, was there a second? Lock Dawson moved it, sorry. Mayor Lock Dawson moved it, Hagman seconded it. Roll call, please.
Mayor Lock Dawson?
Aye.
Supervisor Hagman? Supervisor Perez?
Aye.
Councilmember Rahman?
Yes.
Councilmember Caccioti?
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Thank you, Maria. Move to discussion items. Item number 3 is an update and discussion on federal legislative issues. And our first consultant would be Gary Hoitzma. Gary, go ahead, please.
Yeah, very good. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Glad to be with you today. I'm going to give you a brief notes on the executive branch transition that is in full swing here in Washington, as you know. Generally speaking, the outgoing administration is frantically trying to get money out the door and decisions made that they want to get done before the new administration comes in. So we're watching that process very closely. And I'm just going to give you a couple of notes on three of the top nominees for the cabinet that we will be dealing with in the future. And just to amplify my written report, Lee Zeldin at EPA, former congressman from New York, served 4 terms. He doesn't have a lot of known experience in environmental issues or air quality issues that we know of. He was a congressman that responded very well to his constituents on environmental matters. He was involved with water and Superfund issues, and he has a reputation of being very practical, hardworking, someone who studies issues very well before he makes decisions, and he works very well with Democrats. So I think that's a good capsulation of him. Turning to the Department of Energy, we see Chris Wright, the CEO of Liberty Energy out of Denver. This is a fracking services company. He is a very articulate spokesman for fossil fuels. And he is a proponent of an all-of-above energy strategy. So he is not like opposed to renewable energy, but he is the biggest advocate out there for fossil fuels. And he has written a lot. He has testified before Congress. He's part of a group called the Domestic Energy Producers Alliance. You can see what his positions are. His confirmation here, he's going to be a battle over climate change and everything, but he is well respected within the energy industry. Turning to transportation, Sean Duffy, Fox News personality on TV, 4 terms in the Congress out of Wisconsin. He's not ideological. He is very practical. He works well with Democrats, and that was one of the reasons he's been appointed. Critical is going to be the reauthorization of the transportation bipartisan infrastructure law, as we call it now, and he's going to be tasked with working with Democrats because they're going to need 60 votes in the Senate to get that through. And I think we see Trump wanting to spend more money on infrastructure than on other things. And there's going to have to be compromises with Democrats. And I think he's going to be one that is going to be tasked to do that, to get that bill through. So I will stop there. I'm happy to answer any questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Gary. We'll hold questions off till the end of the federal. Great report. Jed Dearborn. Jed, go ahead, please.
Thank you, Mayor Caccioti and members of the committee. I will cover what we can expect to see for the remainder of this year. So this week and next week are the final 2 weeks of the 118th Congress. Before Congress adjourns, they need to tackle funding the government by December 20th when the current funding extension ends. House Republicans, led by Speaker Johnson, have pushed back on doing a full funding bill, commonly referred to as an omnibus, before the December 20 deadline because they believe that they will have greater leverage to enact spending cuts if they wait to do an omnibus package when Republicans have full control of Congress in 2025. So instead of a big funding package, we're hearing from the Hill they are looking to pass a continuing resolution that extends funding at current levels through mid-March of next year. Several issues remain with getting a CR done, however, as many members of the House and Senate are looking to attach several other pieces of legislation to ride on the funding extension. These include a disaster funding supplemental to help with the damage done to the Southeast by severe weather events, a permitting reform package, and a farm bill extension. But despite these hurdles and unfinished business, we do expect Congress to wrap up by mid next week until they come back to be sworn in early January for the 119th. Thank you, and I'll be happy to take any questions.
Thanks, Jed. Hang around a minute. And finally, Mark Kadish. Mark, welcome.
Yes, good morning, Mr. Chair. Good morning, members of the board, everyone. I'll just build on Jed's report by giving you a little sense of how Congress is getting ready for its next Congress, the 119th, which will start in January. This week, they are picking new chairman in the House and ranking members, and will do so next in the Senate. As you know, we have 8 new members in California in the House of Representatives, 6 of whom Mr. Whitesides, Rivas, Friedman, Cisneros, Tran, and Min are all from our district. So 6 new members who will be looking for new committee assignments. That will probably be done today, and for them, mostly next week. They'll be getting their assignments, and of course, we'll be working with Lisa and Matt and the team to figure out who will be on key committees for us, handling transportation, environment, etc. And of course, as of last Monday, we have a new senator, and he will be also, he's taken over Senator Butler's assignments, committee assignments for now, but could be getting new assignments for the next Congress. So we'll be working closely with his office to figure out what they'll be key on. We are hearing rumors already that matter to South Coast. For instance, one of our members of our delegation, Mike Levin, is likely to get the Appropriations Committee. There'll be other movement. We've lost some committees. We lost some people on key committees due to retirements, like Grace Napolitano and Tony Cardenas. And so we report, we'll let you know where people have ended up, but we'll be working with Lisa and Matt to make sure that we have a strategy going into the next Congress to deal with key committee members from our delegation. So with that, I'll turn it back.
Thank you, Mark. Committee members, any questions for our federal consultants?
Tony Cardenas, huh?
What's that?
Tony Cardenas?
He's retired, so we'll have Luis Rivas, who's by all accounts very good, but we'll be we'll see what committee assignment she gets.
Okay, yeah, I'm a little surprised, but
yeah, it's a loss.
Yeah, all right.
Mayor Locke Dawson or Councilmember Rahman, any comments or questions for the consultants in Washington?
No, except that I think we have a great LA delegation. So I think we'll be able to make a lot of progress, and as long as we are communicative.
I agree. Mark, Jed, and Gary, I just, one of our local areas near me, Burbank, Glendale area, we had a really tough congressional race. We had some champions, and one of the champions won a Laura Friedman, who was great in the legislature, big environmentalist, a lot of great ideas, so we can hopefully work with her well. Keep that name in mind. And is there any public comment on this item? Susan, anybody online? None? I see none here. It's great work, Gary, Jed, and Mark. Thank you very much. Move on right now to item number 4, update on discussion on state legislative issues. And we'll go to David Quintana first. Mr. Quintana, are you with us today?
Yeah, here I am. I hope you can see me.
No, I can. Thanks, David.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd like to add to my report that the 118 members of the legislature were sworn in on December 2nd. And that was not an error. I said 118 because there are 2 vacancies. And those vacancies are the former Vince Fong seat in Assembly District 32 and the former Janet Nguyen seat in Senate District 36. The governor has called a special election for both of those seats now. The primary will be on February 25th, so that will be a sprint. And the general election will be on April 29th. And then my final addition to my report is that one announcement that came out very soon after the new legislature was sworn in was that there will be a bill reduction in both the Senate and the Assembly. So whereas the Assembly had a bill limit of 50 and the Senate had one of 40, they have both now reduced their bill introductions down to 35 over a 2-year session. And the purpose was to focus on the bills introduced so people weren't just running around to hear a million bills, and to ensure that those that were introduced are a little more meaningful. So that is all I had to add, sir.
Thank you, David. We'll come back to you if there's any questions. Next is Ross Buckley. Ross, go ahead, please.
Good morning, Mr. Chair and board members. The Thursday after the November election, Governor Gavin Newsom announced that he would be calling a special session of the legislature. He announced that the purpose would be to bolster legal resources to protect California values. This was in face of the incoming Trump administration. As you may recall, special sessions, there's a couple benefits of them. One is they can only hear bills that are in that proclamation of why they were called for. But two, once the governor signs bills in special session, they go into effect 30 days after they're signed. Typically in a normal session, bills have to wait until January 1st of the following year to go into effect. There's a way to speed up that process a little bit. When the legislature reconvened on December 2nd, they officially convened the special session. So far, there's been 3 bills introduced in the special session, 1 by the Senate, 2 by the Assembly. AB X11 and SB X11 are the 2 budget augmentations to the Department of Justice to kind of provide that legal resources. The Assembly bill is 25 million, the Senate bill is 35 million. So there's some negotiation that needs to happen on both of those bills. There's also been the second bill is around funding federal litigation, where there's a long intent, statement of intent in that bill, but one mentions protecting the Clean Air and Clean Water Acts in California. We'll continue to monitor the bills introduced in a new special session and report back. That completes my verbal report, and happy answering questions.
Thanks, Ross. We'll now move to Paul Gonzalez. Paul, go ahead, please.
Well, good morning, Mr. Chair and committee members. I'd like to provide the committee with a brief update on the November 20th cap and trade auction results. So all 52.6 million of the current vintage allowances that were offered for sale were purchased, resulting in the 17th consecutive sold out auction. This is about 1.5 million more allowances than were offered at the previous auction back in August. The current auction settled at a price of about $31.91, which is roughly $8 above the $24 price floor and about $1.67 above the last settlement price back in August, which was $30.24. Additionally, all of the 7.2 million future vintage allowances offered for sale were also purchased. This is the same number that were offered at the previous auction back in August. This November allowance settled at about $30.16, which is about $6 above the floor price of $24 and about 41 cents higher than the auction in last August. So this is good news. The November auction alone will generate about $990 million for the state's GGRF. So that completes my update, Mr. Chair, and happy holidays to everyone. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Paul. Committee members, any questions for our state consultants in Sacramento?
Yeah,
Supervisor Perez, go ahead, please.
it's really quick. And this probably not necessarily a question for them, but something to be mindful of, as well as our staff moving forward. As we continue to embark, if you will, upon a new committee, establishing it, meaning the Climate Change Committee. Obviously, we've had struggles in the past with just keeping up with what we have already, whether it be AB 617 communities and trying to utilize, resources and trying to receive more in order to support those communities, or committees that exist now with staffing. And, we have quite a bit of ideas for objectives, the scope of work, meetings, evaluation and reporting when it comes to climate change, and specifically that committee. I just want to think through, obviously today we have our committee coming up in a couple of hours, but think through how we're going to be able to fund this committee. In other words, that's what I'm trying to get at. And I'm not sure if Wayne, you have some ideas for this in the sense of now that we have our state lobbyist online here, potentially maybe having some sort of conversation in the future, but any current thoughts now on this as to potentially what they should be looking out for, or it's still too early to tell, or what are you thinking about all this?
I think it's really too early to tell, Supervisor. The state expressly reserves the right to regulate climate, GHGs, unto itself. And as part of the actual negotiations for the original passage of AB 617, that was one of the concessions, was that the districts cannot regulate or pass rules regarding climate. So that was all reserved to the state. So the funding aspect is something that we continue to look at and see how we move forward. And we'll have more discussions with you on that as well.
Okay. All right. Well, obviously, I look forward to the conversation, especially when we're thinking about areas such as energy, waste management, transportation. All that has a role in, and obviously climate change and emissions. So, thanks a lot. Just wanted to bring that up.
Thank you, Supervisor. Committee members, any questions for our state consultants? I don't see any hands raised. Are there any public comments on this item, Susan? Online? None? Oh, one? Okay, Harvey, go ahead, please. You have 3 minutes on the update on state legislative issues, if you can keep your comments within that range.
Hello, am I being
Two
heard?
minutes? Oh, I'm sorry, you have 2 minutes left, Harvey. Go ahead.
Am I being heard? Yes?
Yes, you are, loud.
Okay, my name's Harvey Etter. I'm speaking for myself and for the Public Solar Power Coalition and like-minded individuals and entities. Okay. I want to incorporate by reference, there was an advisory committee on MAPES, that's toxics. It was the 6-1 a couple months ago. And we brought up PM 2.5 and other issues on that. I'll incorporate that whole meeting in reference into the record here. Okay, PM 2.5, it goes right through your lung walls, into your circulatory systems, to your organs, and attacks them, kills them, whatever. Okay, 80–90% of the deaths.
Mr. Tedder, could you confine your comments to state
This is for
legislative issues?
Go on, Harvey. It's okay. Go ahead. Continue.
Damn it, Barbara, I don't interrupt you. Don't interrupt me. This is disrespectful, and it takes me off. You know, I've got thought problems sometimes, and you're just harassing us and furthering, stifling the voice of the people. It's outrageous, okay? PM 2.5 is killing people. It is not recognized federal or state as a toxic. It kills 80–90% of the people. At this meeting that Dr. Goff said, and they're having right now over in India, they've got 30–40 billion people in Calcutta or Bombay. They said that 12 years of their life has been reduced by PM. It's happening here. We only recognize 7,500 deaths. I put all kinds of stuff in the record about the real and the murders that's going on and the conflicts of this agency and others being captured. Now, that's the real, and we need legislation to recognize it. Right now, we're trying to defend against Trump. Do we need a bill now to say in the state and have the other 17 states that follow us that PM 2.5 is murdering people, murder and mayhem, okay? And it has to be recognized with all the legal benefits of being toxic, because it's recognized as criteria with 10, and there's all this garbage about we'll go into that later. But this is real serious stuff, and it's being ignored, and we keep bringing it up, and it's brought up by many people all over the place, and when we talk about it, we're stifled. And this is one example.
Thank you, Harvey. We'll move on to item number 5, other matters. This is other business. Committee members, any other business? See no hands raised. We'll move on to item number 6. That's the public comment portion of the agenda. Do we have any hands raised? Susan, no. Harvey's exceeded his limit, I think, already.
He
has
a separate limit for public
Public
comment
comment.
on items not on the agenda, should he choose to use it.
Thanks, Barbara. Okay. Harvey, go ahead. You've got, is it 3 minutes? You got 3 minutes. Go ahead, Harvey.
Okay. Okay. Hello. Hello. Am I being heard? Yes.
Yes, you are.
Hello. I'm
You're being
Harvey
heard,
Eder.
Harvey. We can hear you.
I'm the director founder of Public Solar Power Coalition. I'm speaking for myself, PSBC, and other like-minded individuals and entities. Okay. Overview. EPA, justice, and education are all being taken out by Project 25 and Trump. Okay. Trump, okay. We're incorporating by reference work being done by the Coffee Clutch by Robert Reich, economics professor, 18 years, UC Berkeley, ex-secretary of labor under Clinton, etc. Okay, in that he has MoveOn.org, a special piece about the 14th Amendment, Section 3, and the history of that, and how the Supreme Court went and overturned the Supreme Court in March of Colorado. It was a woman, 91-year-old, a Republican state senator that was a lead on that named Anderson. There's all kinds of problems with that. They tried to say that part of this, they chickened out and were afraid of chaos. We got chaos now. This is the real, okay? That they cannot run for office. This is after the Civil War, the 14th Amendment, because of insurrection, to keep the rebs out. Okay, that's it, and that's up. Already, on this thing by Move On, they said there was a commissioner in New Mexico and half a dozen others. They were taken out of office for Presidio 1-6, and he's going to pardon them. We got to get rid of him. He cannot be sworn in on the 20th. That's a double jeopardy. He already violated the oath of the Constitution. The Republican Party has to be purged. We have to do this now. Now, Robert Reich has also said we've got to have, like Roosevelt did, 11 or 13 members of the Supreme Court. They've got all kinds of issues with ethics and morals. They don't even accept anything for themselves or the district or the circuit court. This is outrageous. They got to be purged right now, and it's got to be done. This thing about the recess appointments in the Senate, no balance of power. We've got to do this. And Reich has said, like, this woman that runs antitrust, you got to be put on the commission. We're going to do this right on the executive orders.
Mr. Eder, that does not appear to be within the
This is all relevant.
legislative committee.
Harvey, please keep your comments within the scope of our legislative committee, state or federal issues involving air quality. Harvey, one last chance to wrap it up. Giving you a few seconds so you can come back on if you need to.
He disconnected.
Okay, thank you, Wayne. No more public comment? Nothing here in the auditorium, nothing online, so we'll move on. That's our next meeting is January 17th because the first meeting in January is canceled because of the holidays at 9 a.m. Thank you, everybody. I want to thank staff for having a great meeting, to my fellow committee members and our consultants and the public. Have a great holiday and Christmas. Thank you very much. Meeting's adjourned.